News. And if I want to find out what's going on in the world of entertainment, there's Entertainment Tonight. If I want to find out irrelevant, really irrelevant things, there's that other group of folks you can listen to. Y'all know who I'm talking about. See, there it is, right there. I said irrelevant, and y'all know who it is, TMZ. If I want to know what's going on in business, I can go to Forbes. I can go to the Wall Street Journal, right? If I want local news, I got NBC, ABC, CBS. Correct. My question is, though, when it comes to life, who are you listening to? Because we categorize who we listen to based on what we feel to be their expertise. So when it comes to life, to living, whose voice do you go to? Who has enough expertise that would cause you to say, this is somebody I need to listen to? When you want to understand about all of the aspects of life in general, where does it all begin? How about this? Who do you go to for understanding, is there life after death? How many of y'all know death is a part of life, right? So how many of y'all have a hope of something after? All right, how about something good? Okay, okay. So who do you ask? Who do you talk to? Who do you go to? Where we are in Proverbs here in this first chapter, Solomon, and I think very rightly, begins with the foundational issue of that. What are you going to do for life after death? Now, when you read through this, you may not realize it, but he is pointing to life after death. And he gives us three voices that we're going to be able to listen to. One is the voice of instruction. And what Proverbs does is Proverbs likes to personify ideas. So we have here the voice of instruction personified by the father and the mother. And throughout Proverbs, you will see the father and the mother talking to an individual, my son. And so the personification of instruction comes from father and mother. Now, the father and mother that are depicted in Proverbs are a father and mother who have listened to what Moses told the children of Israel about their children. They are to raise them in a way that they understand the law. So instruction is going to be personified in this way. The one that's doing the instruction is going to tell this individual, my son, on how to be right, how to live life in the right way. Now, counterproductive to the one of instruction is this voice of temptation. Later on, the voice of temptation will become the fool, and the voice of temptation will be personified as a woman, a harlot. If you don't know what that is, that's an old way of saying prostitute. And the prostitute's voice will be a voice of lying, a voice of enticement, a voice of seduction. And we'll get to see that today. And then the third voice is the voice of wisdom. Now, the voice of wisdom will call. The voice of wisdom talks to everyone, everybody. As an individual, you're to get your instruction from this voice of instruction, usually the parents. Temptation, by the way, wants to talk to you as an individual, but call you to something collectively. We're going to see that. And then wisdom wants to call you from the collective, out of the collective, into something personal. Y'all catch what I'm saying? So get this. You get personal instruction, all right, to keep you in the right path. What temptation does, temptation wants to call you into what we call what is popular. Pop culture is full of the call of temptation. And wisdom tries to call you out of what is popular into what is life-saving as an individual. So the first voice that we have is the voice of instruction. It's in verse 8. My son, hear the instruction of your father, Now, think of this from this perspective. Listen more than you talk. Listen more than you talk. One of the difficult things about being a parent is trying to talk to your children, but somebody else has been talking to them. Have you ever said something to your child and wondered where they came up with that logic? Because you know it ain't your logic, and it doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't embarrass her, but boy, me and Trinity been having some silly conversations of late. Absolutely silly over a movie she wants to see. Just totally, no, you can't see it. And she'll wait 2 days. Well, why? I'm at the point now where I done told her, don't ask me no more. Next, I don't know, I might choke her or something. Don't ask me no more. It don't make no sense. Where are you getting this from? But it's somebody else is talking to her. You ever just want to, poke an eye out or something? Unscrew the top of their head and fix their brain? Because it doesn't make any sense. That's why he says here, my son, hear the instruction of your father and do not forsake. Don't throw away the law of your mother. Pay attention. Yes. Pay attention. Now, listen carefully. Pay attention. But it's all about who you're paying attention to. You're going to pay attention to someone. Everybody is paying attention to somebody. You ain't listening to yourself. Don't tell yourself that lie. I came up with this. No, you didn't. Everything that you come up with came out of you, was put into you. Somebody put something in you, and then you took it, and you say, I came up. You didn't come up with nothing. That's not you. There's an influence in everything you do. I don't care what it is. This is wisdom right here. Never, ever think you did it yourself. I think one of the worst things I've ever heard was somebody talking about, well, I pulled myself up by my own bootstraps. No, you did not. You got some help. Somebody gave you some knowledge. You got help. You might have took an initiative. That's on you. But as far as you figuring things out, you figure them out based on what somebody else has told you. So who are you listening to? Verse 9, for they will be a grateful ornament on your head. A graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. Now, back in his day, that meant something. If you had an ornament on your head, that meant you were some kind of royalty. If you had chains around your neck, that meant you were somebody to be revered. But notice what he says is going to be the ornament. It ain't gold. It's what you get in instruction. That's what you want to wear. Wear your instructions. Do you know how you wear stuff? You wear it so others can what? See it. When you've been instructed properly, wear that. Verse 10, my son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. All right. This is important because notice that in our instruction, we find out that sinners do what? They entice. Now, back in Solomon's day, they would do it, I would say, person to person. But sin has gotten fancy now. Sin has a thing called social media. Those of us that are Facebook users, which is almost everybody in this room, just about, smart people don't get on it. I know what you're saying, but you're on there. I said smart people. I never said I was smart. I mean, don't get me wrong. Social media has its place, but more and more social media is more and more sinful. If you don't listen to instruction, you'll mess this up because it's enticing. It is seductive. If you're not careful, you find yourself on it all the time. Let me help you. If the back of your neck is hurting, that's because you've been bent over. No, you. If you find yourself driving and can't realize what happened the past few blocks or couple of miles, but you know what was going on your phone. It's got you. If people can reach you through Facebook quicker than they can a phone call. I mean, if you send somebody something on Facebook and get an answer within 2 or 3 seconds, what does that tell you about that person? And then if they do it every time you send something, they're on it. TV. How many of y'all watch TV? I watch TV. I'm not about to tell you not to watch TV. I watch TV. I watch it. I'm not about to tell you not to. Probably be a good thing not to, but I'm not going to say you shouldn't watch TV. You should watch it through holy eyes, because you got to watch what's coming on TV. Another way, you get enticed, because what's coming out of social media and what's coming out of TV are things of the world. I want you to consider that for a second. By the way, they are shaping what is popular. And what is popular thought. Now, you've got to understand, the prince of the power of the air likes airwaves, because he can get his message out to everyone through the airwaves, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or television. He's got a message for you. The message is everything is all right as long as it's not godly. If it's not godly, it's okay. Y'all haven't caught that message? That is the message. Everything is all right as long as it's not godly. Oh, by the way, I'll twist up what godly should be in order to get you to follow it if you're trying to be godly. How many of you have ever looked at something Christian on Facebook, or looked at something Christian on television, or heard something Christian on the radio, and then come to realize it was not Christian? That's why we see here, my son, if sinners entice you. Now, I want you to catch, he says, if sinners entice you, means that the possibility of them enticing you is real. Do not consent. It's the books you read. It's everything you take in. It's the people you listen to. Now we're going to get to the voice of temptation to show you how this enticement works. Because now it is instruction that is going to tell you what temptation is going to say to you. And what's here wraps up the entirety of what this harlot would do to you. First of all, I want you to notice the words us and we. In verse 11, twice, 3 times, us. In verse 12, I see us. In verse 13, I see we twice. And in verse 14, I see the word us twice. This is what she does. She talks to you as an individual, and she gets you separated from everything else and says to you, you're by yourself and you need us. I want you to catch this. She's telling you she has a family and you need to join it. Look at this. If they say, come with who? Us. She ain't saying come with me. She's saying come with us. What does us imply? It's more than one. It must be popular. That's how pop culture works. And it works. Social media will tell you how it works. Because what do you look for? Likes. The more likes you get, the better it is. Put I love the Lord on Facebook. You're going to get some likes. Cuss. You're going to get more likes. Talk about revenging something. You're going to get a lot more likes. Talk about something that is just totally antithetical to what God wants you to do, and folks will like it to death. Us. I want you to be a part of my family. Come with us. Let us lie in wait to shed blood. Now, somebody would read that and say, well, I ain't going to fall for that. Do you think? See, this is the voice of instruction breaking down the real message. Do you think the seductress is actually going to say to you, let's go shed blood? No, the seductress is going to say, let's go get ours. Let's go get what we have coming to us. Let's go get what this world has for us. We need to take it for ourselves. It's out there for us. I'm not talking about the seductress talking to you outside there. I'm talking about you what out here in church. God made it. Let's go take ours. Let's go get ours. Let's go get what's for us. You got to watch out. She doesn't show up in places of ill repute. This is a professional. I hate to say it this way, but she's not the average streetwalker. No, she goes by escort. Right. A legal term for illegal activity. Us, come with us. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. You know, when I first read, the first time I read that, I was like, well, what kind of a fool would fall for this? Then I thought about it. Hold on a second. Let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. I got mine. They should have got theirs. How many of y'all ever heard that one? Right? That's on you. Don't worry about what nobody else is doing. Hey, they stupid. They the dumb one. We also like to say that don't judge me. Only God can judge me now. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole like those who go down to the pit. That's another way of saying step on anybody you can. Doesn't matter what happens with them. Don't worry about them. Do whatever you got to do. It's all about us. Let us all do this for us. We shall, now I like this. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. The motivation for what is in our pop culture is this very thing right here. Let's look at this once again. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. Who do you know that isn't after precious possessions? Do you know anybody that? I mean, everybody wants a Tesla, at least they should. If they don't, something wrong with them. Everybody has their Tesla-like mentality. You got your favorite thing or things that you want. What the temptress does is she comes along and says, let us go get it. Let us go get what you want. Precious possessions. And then she says, not only that, we shall fill our houses with spoil. If you don't catch spoil, all you saw was fill our houses. Oh, we're going to get stuff. Spoil. Spoil comes after war. That's after you decimate somebody and take their things from them. See, the temptress is basically saying, don't get anything honestly. Get the hookup. Can we talk about I know every time I say something about the hookup, I hear about it afterwards. And you went back on. Yes, the hookup is spoil. You messed over somebody to get something. Well, it wasn't me. It was us. It was me and the person involved in it. Us got what we wanted, but you took it from somebody else. You had them literally, you were laying in wait. You wanted to shed their blood. There's more ways in shedding blood than just shedding the blood. People losing jobs because somebody else decided to discount. Business is going out of business because the employees can't be trusted, and you one of them. Us. Verse 14, cast in your lot among us. Now see, here's where, to me, this gets silly. When you think about this, if somebody wants you to join them in this kind of activity, which is to go out and get us what we want, how do you trust them? I mean, can a criminal trust a criminal? At some point, if you'll steal from them, you'll steal from me. This is just simple, right? Doesn't that make sense? If they're willing to take whatever they can get from somebody else, the only reason they wanted an us thing was for you to help them get what they wanted. What happens when you run out of them out there to get from? Or what happens when it's easy to just take it from you? Let us have one purse. Anybody here sharing bank accounts with somebody other than your spouse? No. Let us have one purse. So The voice of temptation is really, watch this, all about material things, all about what is physical. If you want to recognize the voice of temptation, ask yourself this question: what is the goal in all of this? Whether it's church, whether it's people, whether it's social media, television, ask yourself, what is the overarching message here? Is it about material things? Is it about getting stuff that I want? Because if it is, temptation is speaking to you. Somebody is going to say, are you saying that I shouldn't understand how to get something? No, what I'm telling you is that whoever is talking to you, if their goal is for you to get something material and that only, and that is the most important thing. Now listen to what I'm saying. Not someone that's trying to help you pay bills. Because we all got to survive. It ain't about survival. Temptation's not about surviving. That's the lie temptation tells you. Temptation is about getting over. Temptation is about getting something you did not work for. It's about cutting corners. It's about how do you satisfy yourself without putting any work in it. That's what temptation is about. And oh, by the way, everything I just said about temptation goes against God's will. Right? So temptation is really about going against God's will. But temptation is not going to come out and tell you, forget God. What temptation is going to tell you is God is a good all the time, and all the time God is good. Come on with us and let's go lie in wait, because God is good. Temptation will say, bless the name of the Lord, while taking whatever it wants. Don't watch what temptation says, watch what temptation wants you to do. Now, instruction begins to speak again, because instruction is now going to tell you about temptation. Remember, instruction is about, hey, this is how you keep doing what's right. My son, verse 15, do not walk in the way with them. Don't pattern your life after who? Them. Who is them? Those sinners. Don't be like them. Don't approach life from their perspective. Watch this. Chasing paper is different than making a living. Listen carefully. Chasing paper is different than making a living. Making a living simply says, God has given me something to do. Watch this. God is going to make sure I eat. God is going to give me the things that I need. God might even give me some things I want. But if I get them, it will be legitimate. When I start going after things illegitimately, I've been listening to the voice of temptation. Keep your foot from their path. Don't be about that life. It ain't the hustle. The word scares me. Words are important. And people all the time, man, I'm hustling. Why? Hold on. No, why? Scripturally speaking, did God ever say hustle? No, I'm serious. No, it ain't a Greek word. It ain't Hebrew. It's English. It's hustle. My understanding of hustle is do what you got to do to get what you want. Get out there and do what? Hustle. You know what God says? God says, I am your provider. That's what he says. I am your provider. See, when you say, I got to hustle, you're telling God, get out my way. Let me go make this happen. No, God is your provider. Does that mean you may have 2-3 jobs? You might, if God leads you that way. The thing is, though, it's the simple difference between understanding God is your provider as opposed to you got to go make it happen. Because if you think you got to go make it happen, now you hustling. And when you find out you're ill-equipped to go make it happen, you're going to do something wrong in order to make it happen. You're going to lie to somebody somewhere. You're going to fudge something on your taxes. I step back on that one and look around. You're going to find somebody to tell you how to do this, that, or the other in the wrong way. You're going to do something when you hustle. When you start robbing Peter to pay Paul, that type of stuff. Why are you robbing Peter in the first place? Peter ain't done nothing to you. Peter was the rock. Why are we going to rob Peter to pay Paul? Paul ain't asked for nothing. And I know somebody sitting there going, that's just a proverb. Yeah, it is a proverb. But think about it. When you say I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul, what you're saying is I ain't going to pay this one that I should be paying to pay this one. I owe them both. Is that godly? No. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. So, keep your foot from their path. Verse 16. For their feet run to evil. So here is the first reason why, and this is the voice of instruction telling you, this is why you don't want to be about that life. Why you don't want to hustle like this. Why you don't want to go chasing paper, but just understand that God is your provider, and whatever God is providing you with, as sister said earlier, be what? Thankful that you got that. Because if you lose that, you're going to realize you had something. Amen. Their feet run to what? Destruction. That's first thing. Look at the second thing. And they make haste to shed blood. They want to do harm to other people. Isn't it interesting that the Bible says that you should esteem others more highly than yourselves? And yet temptation tells you, go out and harm whoever you want to get whatever you want. Ungodliness. Verse 17. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. Now, this will throw you. Because when you first read this, you'd be like, what in the world is he talking about? Where did this come from? Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. Yeah, how many of y'all know birds have bird brains? When we say bird brain, what do we mean? Small brain. Not very smart, right? The birds, I don't know, parrots can repeat stuff. But for the most part, silly birds are what? Silly birds. But what he's saying here is, even a bird, if you put a net to catch a bird out in front of the bird while the bird is looking, the bird is not going to get caught in that net. The bird has enough wisdom to see what's going on. What he's saying here to his son is this. Come on, boy, don't be a fool. Even silly birds can see the net that's being formed and they avoid it. Why would you fall into that trap that you can see for yourself? If somebody were to come to you with something obvious, temptation is like this. Let's get rich quick schemes. How many of y'all look at YouTube? It's okay. Don't. I do too. I watch YouTube. I watch sermons. I watch funny stuff on YouTube. But you know what bothers me? Because I don't want to get that YouTube red stuff. I can't watch anything on there anymore. I'm trying to watch a sermon and, 20 seconds into the sermon or right before it comes on, somebody comes on there. And what's coming on there now is advertising. But what everybody's advertising is, I made millions of dollars doing what? E-commerce. This, that, and the other. I know a guy that made $100,000 in 15 minutes doing what I'm saying. For the fun of it, click. Go to it. Watch what they say, and then watch at the end when they say to you, now, take my class. It's going to cost you $6,000 to $7,000 to take my class. You a millionaire. What you need my $6,000 for? See? Come on, silly bird. Look at the trap. Don't fall for it. See the trap. Don't fall into that because they're telling you stuff. I love one dude came on, he said, hey, you like this car? And I was like, yeah, it's a Lamborghini. You like this one? Yeah, that's a Ferrari. I'm with him. Yes, I like those. Those are nice. Last year, I was taking Uber. Now I've got these. I'm like, wow. And the next thing I know, he went in a whole tirade about if you do this, and he was writing on the board. I said, I'm looking at the net being built right here. Right here. Because how did he get me first? Look at this shiny object, this car right here. Let me take you away from your brain. If it was that easy, everybody would what? Do it. Stay out their path. They make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any birds. Come on, silly bird, avoid the net. Verse 18. But they lie in wait for their own blood. Now, you got to get this. What he's saying is that when they set up these nets, what they don't realize, this is how silly they are, that same net that they're setting up is the one that's going to get them destroyed. Watch this. Not necessarily destroyed where you can see it, but in the end, they got God to deal with. Hell is coming. God's wrath awaits them. That's the third thing. Those who function this way are waiting on God's wrath. They lurk secretly for their own lives. Remember, they were lurking earlier for the lives of others. What they don't realize is that in secret, they're secretly waiting on themselves to die. They're looking at their own death. Their plans to kill others are actually their plans that are going to kill them. He's saying, see the net and don't fall into that. Verse 19, so are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. Get this about this world. When God created this world, there was no need for greed. What did Adam have to be greedy about? Nothing. After the fall of man, when God says function within this curse, man was influenced again by Satan to try to function outside of God's curse. Now, when you try to function outside of God's curse, you get into greedy gain. And when you get into greedy gain, he says, these are the ways of them. So what in the world is greed? Because it says it takes away the life of its owners. So what is greed exactly? Because I think we get the wrong connotation of greed. I remember back when I was in business school, back in college, and we had to watch the movie Wall Street. And one of the main statements in Wall Street was greed is good. And I remember I was in class with everybody else going, yeah, it must be. Greed is a killer. Now, what is greed? Watch this. Coveting for things that are out of the will of God for us. That's greed. Coveting for things that are out of the will of God for us. It means that if you put God first, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, God will give you what he wants you to have. He may want you to have $1 billion. I ain't going to put it past it. All right? He may. He may want you to eat and be satisfied. That's up to him. But when it's outside of the will of God, and you say to yourself, how do I know it's outside the will of God? It's when you got to start stretching his word and twisting it up in order to accomplish something. It's when you got to say, Lord, you just got to understand what I'm trying to do here. That's greed talking. It's when you get upset because you didn't get what you wanted. I'm going to show you greed. It's when your child comes to you and says, can I have this? And you say, we can't afford it. And the child falls out. That's greed. Because if you give the child the opportunity, they will steal it. How many of y'all as kids saw something you wanted, your parents told you can't have it, not because they didn't want to give it to you, but simply because it was just too much money, and you knew in your heart, boy, if I had access to it, I'd take that thing. See, somebody there saying, no, and they told you when you was in the store, in 7-Eleven or Stop and Go, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. I ain't got but $1.50. See, this back in the 70s when $1.50 was something. No, you can't have it, and ain't nobody looking. Get this bubble gum. I just won't chew it in front of you. That's what greed is. Outside the will of God. As a child, outside the will of your parents. By the way, slothfulness is a part of this. Do y'all know what a slothful person is? That's one who wants things but don't want to work for things. That's someone who says, I want that there, but I'm going to figure out a way to get it without actually doing anything legitimate to get it. The funny thing about slothful people is they work very hard at doing nothing to get things. They could take that same energy and put it into actual work and then not get it and understand it wasn't within the will of God. Here's the thing that we really got to understand. It's okay to have goals, but you got to understand your goal may not be in the will of God. And if it's not in the will of God, if you don't get it, you have to accept the fact you didn't get it, because if you'd have got it, God said it wouldn't have been good for you. I'll say that slower so you can understand what I'm saying. You may want something. You may work towards getting that thing. If you work legitimately and cannot get it, then you have to accept the fact that that was not within the will of God. And if it was not within the will of God, watch what I do here. Thank him that you didn't get it, because obviously if you'd have got it, it'd have messed you up. Right? I mean, when your kid wants something, it's not that the thing may be bad, but you know what they can and can't handle. What kind of parent gives their child candy before dinner? I tell you, a foolish one. One that don't want to be bothered. Eat the candy. I don't care if you eat dinner. I hope you get malnutrition from sugar. Greed. The funny thing with the Bible is greed is all over. Jesus teaching, you can't serve God and mammon. What profit is there for a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? It's all over the Bible. Watch out for greed. Be careful with greed. Now, again, remember, if you have a desire, work towards that desire, right? One of the best ways to find out what's within the will of God is to righteously go after what you want. And when you don't get it, guess what you know? It wasn't within the will of God. That makes sense? So go for what you want. Just go for it the right way, but don't call life over when you don't get it. That's when you ought to praise him the most. Thank you, Lord, for keeping me from messing up and getting this thing. Some of y'all know beforehand if you got it. I know what would happen if I got a Tesla. Might get happy on the way to church and not come. So instruction tells us what to avoid, but wisdom is going to tell us what to get. All right, so we're going to run through these last verses real fast. Verse number 20. Wisdom calls aloud outside. Hold on, wait a minute. Where does wisdom call? Outside. First of all, outside. Wisdom is calling publicly. Do you know what temptation calls you? In private, just you. Wisdom goes outside and calls out loud. Did y'all see that? Wisdom calls aloud outside. She raises her voice in the open squares. The other thing about wisdom is this. It's a she. The personification of wisdom is a very stately woman who is in contrast to the harlot. Yes. So the harlot is dressed like the escort, and then this woman is chaste. Do y'all know what that, does that word help you understand? She looks legitimate, and this one is sassy. That's an old word, but I couldn't think of a new one. You know, I started to say hot, but that I don't know if that means anything. She's sassy. She looks like something. She's glittering. She's shiny. All right? She got powder and paint on to make her look like something she's not. She's going to draw your attention. I know what you're saying. Are you saying I can't wear? I'm not talking about y'all. You wear all the makeup you want to as long as you're not a harlot. The point is, the harlot looks exciting. But the lady of wisdom, she don't look like a party. She's not over there and you going, ooh, look at her. But with the harlot, you're like, wow. Here's the thing. The harlot is attractive, seductive. Let me flip it for the women. He's got broad shoulders. He's tall, dark, and handsome. Ain't that what y'all like? Watch this. He got a beard. See? It's a she. She's not really all that attractive. She doesn't draw a lot of attention. Verse 21, she cries out in the chief concourses at the openings of the gates in the city, she speaks her words. So she goes to the public places where everyone is, and she's calling to everybody. Who are you listening to? The thing with being in public places is there's a lot of noise. So she raises her voice, which means you can't hear her. Now, let me really help y'all out with this, because some of y'all might miss this. When she speaks and calls to everyone, she's speaking loud enough that everyone can hear her. The thing is, are you paying attention? Do you really want to hear what she has to say? Because when you hear her, you're going to look at her, and when you look at her, the harlot is going to be standing next to her. And while she's saying one thing, the harlot is saying another. While she's speaking, the harlot is winking eyes and posing. So verse 22, here's her message. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? She calls on the simple, first of all. And when she calls on the simple, she says, how long are you going to love simplicity? Now, remember last week, simple means to be ignorant. She calls on those who don't know, who are easily led, because those are the easiest ones to maybe hear what she has to say. So she's calling on them. She says, how long do you want to sit in your ignorance? Because when you sit in your ignorance, sometimes ignorance is a place a lot of people would like to be, because they use that as an excuse. But she's going to make sure that they're no longer ignorant, because she's going to call out so that they can hear her. And look at her message. How long are you going to be ignorant? When are you going to come into knowledge? She doesn't call to the scorners. Catch this. For scorners delight in their scorning. She talks to the simple ones, but she can't talk to the scorners. You know what the scorners are convinced that what they have and what they know is right, so they're laughing at everything that she says. To be a scorner is a terrible place to be, because once you become a scorner, you've convinced yourself of something. But then there's something even worse. And fools hate knowledge. The word fool in the Hebrew language means to be dull, stupid. Now, it's not about IQ. Some of the smartest people in the world are fools. All right. It's the fool believes they know better. They can do whatever they want. It doesn't matter. I know better. Now, in the book of Romans, the funny thing is, if y'all remember when we went through Romans, Paul said the wicked, there were three types. There was the one that didn't know no better, that thought God just loves me and I'll be okay. That's the simple. Then there was the one that thought religion was going to save them. I figured out the 3 steps in order to make sure that God takes me. That's the scorner. I laugh at everything else. I laugh at you coming to me talking about God. That's funny to me because I know better. That's the person that you have a tough time dealing with. And then there's the one that's just wicked for wicked's sake. I'm just going to be as wicked as I want to be. I don't care nothing about God. I don't want to know nothing about that. Paul said, here's the 3 people that you're dealing with. Those 3 types of people. And if you look here, wisdom saying, I'm dealing with those same 3 people. So verse 23, she says, turn at my rebuke. The rebuke is where you're going, what you're doing, what you're about is wrong. Listen to what I'm saying. It's wrong. Surely, if you listen to me, I will pour out my spirit on you. Some of you all should catch that right off the bat. That's the prophecy of Joel, that the day would come when God would pour out his spirit. That's the promise of Jesus, that he would leave, but he would send back his spirit. And it's fulfilled at Pentecost, when the spirit came down and indwelled believers. Please understand what's being positioned here. It's called salvation. Wisdom says the very first thing you need is to be saved. Instruction says you got to understand, stay away from wicked stuff. And here comes wisdom saying, this is what you get involved with. Let me call you out of that popular public place. Every place that was named for her to be calling in Solomon's time was a place where everybody hung out. It was the popular place. Wisdom, God is calling you by wisdom out of what's popular. That's why the Bible says that he calls us out of darkness. Darkness is what's popular, into his marvelous light. That way is wide. That's popular. That's darkness. but his way is narrow. He's calling you out of what's popular. Be careful about what's popular. Because something here gets serious. And she says, I will make my words known to you. So what Solomon is saying here is, first of all, you get your salvation, and then now wisdom is going to teach you how to handle the salvation that you have. Here's where you get into making right choices in life. The first choice you have to make right choices in life is to be saved. Y'all get that? Amen. That's the first one. If you don't get that one, Proverbs does you no good. There are people that don't believe in God that will go to Proverbs and read it and go, yeah, that makes sense. It ain't doing you no good. None whatsoever. Verse 24, because I have called you and you refused. I have stretched out my hand and no one regarded. Because you disdained all my counsel and would have none of my rebuke. In other words, because you rejected me. Now, didn't I say she calls in the public places? Yes. Real fast, everybody turn to Romans. Turn to Romans. Find the first chapter. I think we've done this in Bible study several times, but I want you to catch this real quick. And I'm... Oh, we ain't going nowhere. Romans chapter 1. Yeah. Romans chapter 1. Find verse 16. Here's the deal with this whole calling thing. I said in public places. All right. Verse 16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. That's the gospel is that written message of Christ. For it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek. Y'all see that? Yes. That's the first way this is public. It's written. It's written. Now, funny thing is, there are people that run around talking about, what if you ain't heard the gospel? Verse 17 says, let me explain it to you what's in this. For in it, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, that is written, the just shall live by faith. So there is a written gospel that if you will put your faith in it, that is how you will live. Then verse 18 says, for those that run around talking about, but what if you ain't heard this gospel? Okay. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven. Where is it revealed from? Heaven. So just look up. Yes, this is natural revelation. The first one was written, but there's a natural revelation. Where is it? Up. Yes. It's in the sky. How you gonna miss it? It's in the public place. It ain't private. There's no such thing as a secret gospel. It's public. Yes. Against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, watch this, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. In other words, if you've ever looked at the sky and you didn't see God, you are suppressing the truth. You are looking at it going, that's God, but I don't want him. I don't want him. Let's explain him away somehow. Because what may be known of God is manifested, watch this, in them. We always, now my wife's going to appreciate this. We always talk about, she and I have talked about this. There is the written revelation. There is the natural revelation, but you forgot the one that was in you. I forgot the one that was in me. Because it says, what may be known of God, is that not revelation? Is manifested in them, for God has shown it to them. So when God was showing it out here, they couldn't say, I don't understand what's going on, because their conscience told them. God created us so that we would know he existed. God created us so that we would know this gospel. God created so that even if you don't get it written, it's in you and it's above you and he's manifested it to you. You can't even say, I misunderstood it, because he gave you the key inside of you. You looked up and said, there's something out there, and something in you said, it's God. It's all there. So verse 20 says, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen. Yes. Clearly. Do y'all know what in the Greek language Come on. Clearly means? Clearly. Wait, easy to understand. Being understood by the things that are what? Made. Even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Nobody has an excuse. Wisdom is out there in the public places. calling people, and they don't have an excuse. They're not going to be able to say, I ain't hear you. They're not even going to be able to say, I didn't understand you. All they can say is, I heard you, I understood you, and I didn't want you. I wanted that harlot. Come on back. So in verse 26 of Proverbs chapter 1, since you didn't listen to me, since you didn't want to hear what I was saying when I was calling on you, I also will laugh at your calamity. Now, I want y'all to see these words: calamity, terror, destruction, distress, and anguish. I will mock your terror. I will mock when your terror comes. By the way, in 3 places in Psalms, God laughs at these people, according to the psalmist. 3 different places. God, y'all wonder, does God laugh? Yeah, he laughs. But look who he's laughing at. He's laughing at those whom he created and put above them who he was, and in them who he was, and they said, I don't want you. So he laughs at them. When your terror comes like a storm and your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you. This is damnation. This is hell. This is the lake of fire. What's being talked about here is when it's too late. Isaiah 55:6 says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Yes. Call upon him while he is near. When you shut your eyes not to open them here and you open them in the fires of hell, it's too late. When you stop breathing here, it's too late. This is when the laughing begins. Because in verse 28, then they will call on me. Well, why didn't you call on me when I was out here screaming at you? You didn't call on me. If you don't think that's real, remember Jesus talking about Lazarus? Yes. Right? And the rich man? That was not a parable because he named Lazarus. That was for real. When the rich man went to hell, he looked up, saw Lazarus. Abraham, can you let him go back and tell my brothers not to come here? It's too late. What was the answer there? They had the prophets. That was wisdom speaking through the prophets. They had the prophets. If they don't want to listen to them, they will come to me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me. When are they going to do it? They're going to do it when it's too late. See, the problem with foolish individuals and scorners is this. They want empirical evidence. They don't like faith. Although it's harder to believe that God doesn't exist than it is to believe that he does. They want empirical evidence for the actual existence of God. If y'all don't know what empirical is, concrete. Bring him to me. Show me God. You know what my answer to that is? Because I've had that before. If I did, how would he prove to you that he is God? What does he need to do? Float in the air? David Blaine did that. Any trick can do that. What would he have to do in order to prove to you that he's God? Because you don't want him in the first place. And you can't even set up a standard to tell me this would prove that he's God. So he says, you better have faith. Verse 29, because they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, they would have none of my counsel and despise my every rebuke. Therefore, they shall eat of the fruit of their own way. They're going to reap what they sowed. This means everyone that goes to hell goes because they wanted to. I love it on Wednesday nights when we get into this discussion of election and like, oh, I don't think God is fair here. Like, they're going where they want to go. And be filled to the full with their own fancies. They're going to get it all. They're going to get full off of it. Full to the fill, you know what that means? You're going to get every bit of what you wanted. Every bit of it. Verse 32, for the turning away of the simple will slay them. That is, they're turning away from God. And the complacency of fools will destroy them. That means that materialism, that not believing in judgment, that thinking that they're okay, that I can be as wicked as I want to be, that will destroy them. Now, but do you notice who's missing? The scornful. Let me tell you why the scornful are missing. The scornful are missing because they're lukewarm. You remember when Jesus, talking to the seventh church, said to them, I wish you were cold or hot. See, if you were cold to me, that would make you a fool. And I could deal with you. If you're hot for me, then you're on my side and I can deal with you. See, if you're cold, I need to turn you hot. But if you're lukewarm, you think you got it. The scornful think they got it. And so, doesn't even mention the scornful. Just go straight from the simple to the fool. Verse 33, but whoever listens to me will dwell safely. Listens to who? Me. Wisdom. Listens to what wisdom is saying. Listens to wisdom. Y'all get this. Listens to wisdom. Not Oprah. Wisdom. It doesn't mean you can't hear what she's got to say. But when you're listening to wisdom, you're going to catch where wisdom will tell you, don't listen to that. That's why I'm telling you, it ain't about you watching TV. It's about you having wisdom when you're watching TV. It's about you being able to separate what is entertainment from what is actual life. It's about you being able to hear things and through a filter say, this ain't right. I don't need that. But this is. That's what I need. Because whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure. That means you ain't got no worries. That means not only are you going to be safe, but you will remain safe. Thank you, Jesus. Without fear of evil. You don't have to worry about being enticed if you'll stop listening to them and start listening to me. No fear of evil. So here's the deal. I'm a music lover. I am. I like a lot of different genres of music. So I like to listen to music. I got satellite. I got my Spotify. You know, I think that the kids even still got a CD player in it. I got it. I can listen to music, got the radio. I like talk radio. Like I said, I listen to the Ticket, you know, stuff like that. But when I was going down the highway to Houston, back and forth sometimes, driving, one of the things I realized, if you're not careful, that ain't nothing but noise. It's a bunch of noise. And even if you have your salvation, you got to be careful of the noise. Sometimes you need to cut everything off and just listen to wisdom. The Bible would call it meditating. Meditating on the Word of God. Sometimes cut that stuff off. Get off Facebook. I don't know how sometimes have you ever done this? Do Facebook, television, all at the same time? Cut it all off. Think about God. Understand wisdom is calling. Wisdom is talking. Wisdom is teaching. Because see, once you have wisdom, once you're saved, the next thing that Solomon's going to say is he's going to tell us, go searching for everything she has to tell you. Because if you don't forget what she said, I'm not going to just pour out my spirit on you. I'm going to illuminate my word for you. Yes. I'm going to help you make right decisions. But if you are silly enough to keep the noise going, sometimes you need to get out the public place. No wonder Jesus said, get in your own closet. Yes. Get by yourself sometime. Get with God alone sometime. Cut off the noise. Listen to what wisdom has to say. It's a life and death matter. Who you listening to? God bless you. Let's stand. Let's come together. All right, we're going to dismiss. We're going to also pray for the food for those that are staying.